What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Kumite Lifestyle, where the mat meets the mic. I'm your host, Nick Arndt, and I appreciate you tapping in for another episode. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or streaming the show on your favorite podcast platform, thank you for being here and supporting what we're building. Every view, every listen, every follow, every comment, every review, and every share helps this podcast continue to grow and reach more people. If you're new here, this show is all about real conversations, real stories, and real people doing meaningful things. And if you've been rocking with us already, you know what time it is. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave a rating or review, and share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. Now, let's get right into this amazing conversation. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. I'm super stoked to introduce today's guest. His name is TJ Bright, and TJ is the newest addition to the ambassador class for the Kumite Lifestyle, which I'll definitely talk about. But TJ, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing today?
I'm feeling amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the energy. I think feeling amazing is fantastic, because if you're not feeling amazing, like, what are we doing then, So I'm excited to bring you on. And like I was just, telling the, listeners and viewers that you are now an ambassador. And to give some context for those watching and listening, the ambassador program is something that, Kumite Lifestyle has officially launched. It's still brand new. It's still in its infancy stage, if you will. But to be selected for an ambassador means that you're representing the brand. And when I heard your name come up, I've had a chance to watch you on social media. I think you're a phenomenal athlete. I think you have a very great career ahead of you. So super stoked to have you not only on the podcast, but as an ambassador. So congratulations to that. And just excited to see this, momentum going forward. I'll start off with this. TJ, what does it mean to be an ambassador for Kumite Lifestyle?
To me, I feel like it's kind of, first of all, I'm grateful. Thank you for picking me as an ambassador. And to me, I feel like it's to, kind of reach, spread out what, I don't know how to explain this. Spread out, I watched you when you first started, and I want to spread like your knowledge and what I know too, because I'm a former AAU ambassador and I want to spread what you know.
Very cool. Yeah, so we're excited to have you on. And you mentioned that you were already an ambassador for the AAU, which is, to give some context, the AAU is the Amateur Athletic Union, for those listening and watching. And it's an inclusive program for not only karate, but it's amazing how many sports that they have involved in. Being involved in the AAU karate program myself many years ago, it really is for everyone. And to see young athletes like yourself not only having success on the tatami, but also off the mat as well, as they say. So, I think that's I think your understanding of that is just, sharing and collaborating and making sure that, this platform that I've been able to give so many people, and just listening to their stories, where the podcast is the heart of everything we do as far as Kumite Lifestyle goes. And, just being able to hear stories, as you mentioned, that you've listened to, and now here you are, right? So now you're in the hot seat. So let's take it back in time. So tell the viewers, where are you currently in the world as far as location wise? You don't have to give your exact address, of course, but where do you, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, I live in Florida right now. I go to Sensei Chris Welburn Karate Club's dojo. And
Yeah, Chris Welburn. That's someone that I believe I met him, I think, a while back when I was in AAU. He used to have a student, Kyle Queenan. Do you know who that is?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so Kyle he's a little bit, he's a lot older than yourself, but he's a little bit younger than me, but he was on the Italy team. But I know he trained with Sensei Chris Welburn. So huge shout out to him. That's amazing that you're training with such an awesome instructor. So you're living in Florida. Aside from karate, before we jump into that, what grade are you in? And are you involved in any extracurricular activities aside from karate?
I'm a freshman. Well, I'm going to my sophomore year this year. I like to play basketball. I used to run track, and I used to play football too. Those are my other things that I like to do.
Very cool. So you've been it's safe to say that you've been pretty well rounded as far as extra, curricular sports go. But from what I can tell, karate is definitely your passion and your love. Very
Yes.
cool. So let's talk about your karate journey. When did you first get started? And the question that I love asking, karate athletes, especially, is when you got started, was karate something that you wanted to do, or was it something that maybe mom and dad, or maybe a family member or friend kind of helped kind of guide you there, or maybe pushed you into doing it?
Okay. So I started when I was 4 years old, and yes, I really wanted to do karate. Karate was like really the only thing I wanted to do when I was younger.
Yeah.
And yeah, my mom really never mentioned it. I just kind of watched, TV shows, and it was really interesting to me.
Yeah. Were you into the show Power Rangers at all? Is that something that your
Um,
generation
yeah, I
got
kind of
into?
watched it, but really got me into karate was the Teenage Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, anyone that does karate that doesn't know what Power Rangers are or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is definitely missing out. So that's cool that you had an opportunity to kind of get, that early exposure. When you were 4 years old or maybe early on, do you remember what your first class was like? And were you nervous? Were you scared? Is that something that you can remember?
Yeah, I kind of remember it because we have videos and stuff. I it was kind of I wasn't the best at it when I first started, but I actually really enjoyed it. I was laughing smiling during like every movement, and it was it kind of came like kind of natural to me, and I just knew that was when I really knew that it was meant for me.
Very cool. Yeah. So I think early on you found that passion, and then like obviously it's something that has stuck with you. So I would love to know now, like, as a young karateka back then when you started at age 5, when did you first get introduced to training? Oh, actually, before we talk, I'm sorry, not training, but competing. But before we talk about your competition, do you have any funny stories early on, from your training? Anything that's kind of memorable?
Oh yes. We like had a street fighting class every Thursday, and I accidentally poked this girl's eye during street fighting. Yeah, and I she dropped me on my head, and it's
Uh,
kind of embarrassing. But
So she made you pay for it.
yeah.
Now, when you say street fight, what does that class entail?
It's kind of like where you don't really wear any gear. We kind of learn like kind of a bit of everything, like hip throws. We kind of like punch the body, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of like a mix of everything.
Nice. Yeah. So not only are you learning traditional karate, but you're learning a little bit more of like what could happen in a real life situation. Very
Yes.
cool. Yeah. So it's awesome. So you've been exposed to karate early on. You have an amazing sensei, like you mentioned. You talked about the street fight class, which adds realistic applicability. Now, I would love to know more about when did you first get introduced to competing? Because, having been 4 years old, and like you said, I guess kind of falling in love with the sport, if you will. I'm sure competition was that something that you wanted to do initially, or maybe you watched other classmates do it and you said, you know what, I can do that.
Well, initially I started at my school, so I didn't really know much about the competition. We would have like little competitions at our school, but it was nothing serious. And then I went to the camp at my dojo, and I saw all those gold medals and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I want to get those. And that was what really, started tournament team. I started when I was 7 or 8. Yeah, I'm 7. I think it was 7.
Nice. So it was pretty early on.
Yes.
Very cool. And you talked about medals and trophies. How many medals and trophies do you have now? Too many to
Um,
count, or
Medals, too many to count. I have 2 trophies right now, and then another coming for this year.
very cool. I got to ask, are you a fan of medals or trophies?
Um, Trophies, most definitely.
Really? I would have taken you more as a medal guy because they're easier to pack and they're easier to carry around, like, store.
Yeah, but like, when you go to the tournaments, you don't see a lot of trophies that they give out. It's harder to get trophies than the medals. That's what really I like trophies more.
That makes sense. So you're saying that trophies now are more like the grand championship prizes, like
Yes.
yeah, very cool. Yeah, I know for myself coming up when I was your age, a little bit younger, trophies was all I saw. And, of course, when you're a kid, I mean, as you're describing it, trophies are cool. But the problem is, like, if you're traveling or if you're out of state or if you're flying on an airplane, it's like, how do you, store like a 4 foot, like, 5 foot trophy? So, yeah, that's a good reminder that, I didn't take into account that medals are pretty common now. I see more tournaments actually leaning more towards the medals as far as placement. But yeah, I would say like trophies are. I think it's. I think it means a little bit more now because, like you said, it's harder to get for sure. Have you So speaking of trophies, I'm assuming that to get a trophy like nowadays when you're competing, is that because you've won grand championships? Was that like a special award?
The trophies that I've got are from all from Florida. So we have like in Florida, we have our point systems. So like each tournament, if you win gold, it's like 30 points. And like by the end of the year in each division, like lightweight and heavyweight, they choose like a overall trophy. There's a Kumite trophy, and then there's a Kata trophy. So yeah, it's kind of just based on overall medals that you get, and whoever gets the like most overall medals, you get it like for everything. And if you win in kata like all the time, then you get kata, and then same thing for kumite.
Nice. So there's a point system now. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Is that for the AAU specifically, or is that just other tournaments you've
Um,
been to?
I think that's just for Florida because we're kind of like other places use Uventex. We don't use Uventex, so
Yeah.
I think that's just Florida.
Got it. Can you what's a memorable tournament for you that really stands out? And perhaps it's a tournament that maybe you didn't get first place or maybe you didn't place at all, but it's a tournament that it sticks with you because maybe it was like something happened at that event that, really stood out. Can you recall any tournament that kind of comes to mind?
Yes. So it was actually this year. I think it was West Palm Beach, and I was sparring. Like I knew I was gonna fight this person, and like I knew I was better than this person. Like not even trying to be cocky, but I knew I could beat this person,
Yeah.
and I kind of went into there being cocky, and I lost to that person. And ever since then, it kind of just gave me that drive to get better so I could never lose again because that was kind of like sad for me. And after that, I kind of took it to heart. And ever since then, I've been like training a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting how and I appreciate you sharing that story, and also being a little vulnerable there as far as the ups and downs. It's easy to talk about the wins, the first places, and, even if you don't place, but, you came so close. But for you to admit, even as, a skilled athlete like yourself, that, there is a level of confidence that every athlete should take into any competition. And I'm not even just speaking karate, but just sports in general. And then, of course, that confidence carries over. But if you're overconfident or if you feel like like no one can beat you, that's usually when we tend to kind of slip up. So the question I have for you now is aside from that experience, TJ, what's your mindset going in before any competition? Of course you want to win, but do you have the mindset of like no one's going to beat me today, or it's like, and I know that comes through preparation, but I know every athlete is different, and that's something that I love. It's kind of deep diving like inside the athlete's mind. So for your mindset when you go into any tournament, whether it's a local, maybe a state, national, and then of course the international stages, what is your mindset, or what do you tell yourself before every competition?
You actually kind of said it. Yeah. Like every time before I go to compete, I kind of like listen to music, and my whole mindset is nobody can beat me because, I used to kind of self doubt myself, and that would kind of really throw off my game. And ever since I've been thinking that, nobody can beat me, it's kind of just gave me like this adrenaline and stuff that it just made me fight smarter. It just it helped overall by just me thinking that I could beat someone. Just I threw stuff that I didn't think I could throw. I was just and it actually kind of worked. And that was what really changed this year, and I'm happy that I was started to change my mindset. That was probably the key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we jump back into this conversation, I've got to put you on. The official Kumite Lifestyle shop is open and the merch is ready. We've got shirts, hoodies, hats, accessories available now, and every purchase helps support the show, the content, the guest, and everything we're building. So if you've been enjoying the episodes, this is your chance to support the podcast and look good while doing it. Head on over to kumitelifestyle.com, click the shop, and grab your gear today. Use promo code KUMITE, Kumite, and receive a 15% discount for each purchase. Don't just watch the movement, be a part of it. I think mindset is the key for any, pillar of success. So I'm glad that you, early on being a high schooler, but a young athlete, as they say, like as you're coming up, it's cool that you've already started to develop that mindset. And I feel that's what really separates a lot of athletes, not even just your, senior level athletes, but even the junior competition level athletes. Like anytime I go to tournaments, I love to kind of scan the room. I love to see what other athletes are doing and how they're preparing. And the ones that are truly focused in or like locked in, like you said, right, they're listening to music, right? They're kind of giving themselves like a little, like, a pep talk, if you will. So it's amazing that you've kind of already had that instilled, So speaking of mindset, now that you've already kind of have this good mindset, for every competition you do, let's take it back to your very first tournament. How did you do at your very first competition?
That's actually a very good question. I'm pretty sure when I was younger, to be honest, I wasn't really that good at sparring. I was kind of a kata guy. So I'm pretty sure that I won in kata, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, kata, I was that kind of always came natural to me. So I did pretty good in kata. Sparring, when I was younger, I actually didn't like sparring, and I just never really tried until I got older. But it was, I think I got second in sparring. No, never mind. First, I got first then.
There you go. and this was
I,
all and this was all your first competition.
yeah, this was my first competition.
Man, that's awesome. So here you are, like years later, and you can talk about that success. And it's kind of like, getting first place was kind of the stamp, right? It's like, all right, this is what the expectation is. And I love that you mentioned that, like, you did kata. And I think it's important that, as karate students, like not even athletes, but just students in general, that we understand that kata is a important part. And of course, when you're a seasoned athlete, you can choose between either or. So it's a nice blend that you've had an opportunity to do both. I wonder now, yeah, as where you are, like currently, do you do both? Is kata something that you still do, or do you focus more on the kumite?
I do, yeah, I still do kata and I do kubudo now. And yeah, but like, I went in kata more than sparring, but I'm working on my sparring. Like I've been working a lot this year to get better in sparring, so I can like guaranteed win every single time. That's my goal.
Very cool. So you have one particular thing that you're always striving for, that that you're going to have more success in than the other.
Yes.
Very cool. Now, speaking of kata and kobudo, which I'm glad that you mentioned, because I remember seeing some of the pictures of you holding the bow staff and performing. What of the three, and I know it's different because obviously kata and sparring is two different entities within the world of karate. But when you're training for, let's say, all three, whether it's kata, kobudo, or kumite, how much time do you give for each specific category? Do you spend maybe a day on one, or is it kind of broken down into kind of cycles? And is this something that you plan, or is this already kind of prearranged from your dojo and your sensei?
Okay, so like in my dojo, we do a little bit more kata than sparring. So if it was like on our tournament team training, we would do like an hour. Well, actually, we've kind of shifted because we're all pretty good at kata, so we're trying to get better at kumite. So I would say we've been doing like an hour, 30 minutes of sparring and like an hour of kata, I would say.
And that's pretty
That's
normal.
Yeah. And then for me, like when I practice on my own, like I'll just say in like an hour time, I would do like 30 minutes of sparring and like I would say 15 minutes of kata and kabura.
On your own time.
Yes.
Nice. And do you have any specific training partners, or do you have anyone that helps you personally? I mean, of course, when you go to class, your dojo mates and your instructors help you, but when you're preparing specifically for your, specific goals that you want to achieve at the nationals and internationally, is there a small group of athletes like yourself that you have available that can help you?
Yes. I have like I train also with West Coast, so I train with Sam and Ben and Jimmy, Sensei Jimmy. Um, Other than that, like I would say Dominic, he's one of my closer friends, and we're in the same division, and we're always like winning. Like we'll go back to back, and he also helps me like get better overall too.
Yeah, you mentioned something just now, which I think is pretty interesting, how you compete with your friends, right? So, Dominic, is it personal out there when you guys are sparring each other? Or like, is it hard to kind of separate that?
Um, we actually like we don't. I don't know how to describe it. We like during the match, we'll kind of like if one of us don't get a point and we know we scored it, we'll kind of just laugh a bit and then we'll go back straight into serious mode. And whenever one of us like we think we hurt each other, we'll be like, like immediately check up on them. And I'd say, um, uh, it's nothing really like we try not to, overly hit each other. We kind of, I'm not saying we hold back, but we try to kind of hold back our punches so we don't rock each other because we're really close.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I remember hearing something a while back when I was on the AAU team where, let's say you and I are homies, right? And we're used to sparring each other. Sometimes it's harder to spar a friend, and it's a lot easier to spar someone you don't know because, like, you're not willing to hold back the punches against someone that, you know, like you're not familiar with. So, in your competition, like in your division alone, I'm sure over the years, like you got a chance to know all the competitors in your division, I'm sure. But is there anyone that kind of is there anyone in your division that presents a challenge every year? Is there one particular athlete or maybe two athletes that like, hey, they're going to be in my division, so I have to train a little bit harder for these individuals?
Yes, it would be, yeah, it would definitely be Dominic because, well, Dominic has been in the black belt division longer than me. And, he's always kind of like won the trophies. And when I first got into my black belt year, it was kind of a struggle. And immediately when I saw like he was competition, when we both saw that we were each other, like we would like push each other and immediately we became friends. And he's definitely made me better. Like I feel like we both made each other better by fighting against each other and going against each other. Because like if one of us wins, the next time we train harder, and then each like we'll go back and forth, back and forth. And
Very
yeah,
cool.
definitely made me better.
Yeah, and that's I think the most important thing that karate gives anyone, aside from heart and self defense, that we hear a lot is just that community of people, right? It's that friendship that you talk about, where yeah, like we can spar and we can battle it out, but at the end of the day, it's just karate, right? It's just kumite. At the end of the day, like it's nice to get a friendship out of it. So I know that like yourself and you've been surrounded by a lot of amazing athletes that are maybe younger than you, the same age, and a little bit older. And I remember when I think you mentioned Jacob Little as one of your
Yes.
references, and Jacob is also one of our he was a podcast alumni and one of our ambassadors. What's your relationship with Jacob? Because Jacob is someone that I have a lot of respect for. He's also a fellow Ishinu karateka like myself, but when I saw his name on your application, I said, okay, like TJ knows some pretty cool people. So what's your relationship with Jacob?
Yeah, so I've been over at Ingham's dojo. We've trained together, and I always see him at world competition, and we always like my family. We kind of like we'll go out to dinner with him. We'll like if he's like by himself, we'll take him with us. You know, he's always just been there for us when we're like out of country and stuff, out of
Yeah.
state too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think huge shout out to Jacob and his family, his mom Amanda. I think they're fantastic people, and yeah, it was a no brainer when I saw his name on your on in the email that you sent. I was like, okay, cool. Like if Jacob, thinks highly of you, then I think that's a good choice. So I'm glad that you had a chance to connect with Jacob. And like you said, it's their friendships on and off the mat. Speaking of world competition, I would love to kind of, deep dive now into, the nationals that you talked about. But, aside from that, what is like up to this point, TJ, what have been some of your biggest competitions that you've competed in so far? And like I'm talking about maybe like nationally or maybe internationally.
I would say the hardest competition I've ever had to be Serbia because I was like the younger in our division because it was 13 to 15 and that kind of was hard for me and I was actually supposed to be in lightweight and they moved me up to middleweight and I was like kind of a hard struggle. I didn't really do that good in that tournament, but it was a lot of bigger people and that was definitely the hardest tournament I've ever had.
Yeah. And would you say weight classes definitely matter
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Man, like explain what that like must have been like. Was that your first trip overseas, the Serbian trip?
No, my first trip was it was Scotland. Scotland was my first trip, and yeah, that was my first trip.
That's amazing. So you've had a chance to compete on the international stages multiple times. So aside from the karate competition, something that I love, getting to hear from athletes is what was your experience like going to a different country for the first time? What did you expect? What did you learn? Because, I think when you travel anywhere, competing is such a small part, but whether you're traveling with your family, your friends, in this case, the national team, when you got to Scotland for the first time, what the heck was going through your mind? Was it cool? Was it what you thought of? Like, obviously, of course, from aside from the competition, mentally, how did you get prepared? When you're in a different country, because that can be a little scary.
Um, I actually, when I went to Scotland, I didn't really know what to expect, but when I first got there, the houses, like the places where we stayed, they were actually pretty nice. The Scotland was actually pretty nice. I will be honest. So the food wasn't really my favorite, but they also, it's a lot of like, you will notice whenever you go out of country, all the food is like healthier than ours. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that was like kind of a different, so I kind of had to adjust to like the food and stuff, but yeah. Um, and I would say Scotland was actually pretty beautiful and I wasn't expecting, to be honest, like because I never really heard of Scotland before that. And when I got there, I was kind of surprised. I didn't like expect for it to look like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you kind of had this expectation of what you think something is, but when you actually live it, firsthand and experience it, it's not the same as what we thought. So yeah, no, it's pretty cool. And I love the reference you made about healthier foods anywhere else you go. That bro, that is so true. I think that's important for anyone that's listening, right? So if you're outside the country, not all foods are created the same, as they say. So what did you learn though, like about yourself, like on these international trips? Because yeah, you can win, you can place, you can do all these great things that you can do here at home. This part of the episode could be sponsored by you. If you're a business owner, creator, entrepreneur, brand, or organization looking to get in front of the engaged audience, this is your opportunity. Kumite Lifestyle is growing, and we're always looking to partner with people who are doing good work and want to connect with the community. To sponsor an episode or to learn more, visit kumitelifestyle.com or reach out directly. Let's build something together. Now, back to the episode. But like, what were some of your takeaways? Like, what did you learn, about yourself going overseas with the national team? And ultimately, what did you take away? Like maybe it was a life lesson, maybe it was a reminder of like, man, like I really like have a great life over here. You know what I mean? So like what did you take away personally, TJ?
Okay, personally, I like first thing when like for the competition, um, I knew that it was going to be harder competition, but I did not expect for, especially for kata. Kata was like really a struggle for me because I would win in kata in Florida in like most of the state tournaments, and then I didn't place at all. I actually got disqualified, and the rules are really different for like any world's tournament. The rules are different. They kind of do stuff different, and that was something I had to adjust to too. Because whenever I do kata out of country, I kind of have to change how I do it.
Yeah.
For yeah,
When you say change, what do you mean that? So like what adjustments are you talking about?
um, like they have stricter rules. Like you can't do certain. It's more where you have to. It's more traditional karate than some tournament based stuff that we change for tournaments.
Yeah.
You kind of have to go back to normal good traditional karate.
So so you're saying the adjustment can be a little bit of hard a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you get a chance to compete in the well actually I'm sorry, before I ask this next question, you also mentioned Serbia. So
Yes.
how did you do in that competition? Speaking of
um
international yeah, speaking of international experiences, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I got second in weapons, and I'm pretty sure that's all I got. Serbia wasn't really the best, but that was a learning experience. So definitely next time I go to an ISF tournament, I will do better.
Yeah, so I've heard that come up before. So what is a ISF? I'm sorry, what's it called again? The
ISF.
Yeah, so what is that? Like, is that because I know there's WUKF. So what is the tournament that you just mentioned?
Um, I don't really know because that was like my first ISF tournament. But from what I know, they take like certain age groups. Like it's different every year. It's like 12 to 15, and then they take 18 and 18. I think it's like 16 to 18, and I think they're just taking it by age groups. But I don't really know much than that. That's all I know.
Sure. Yeah, but I was just curious because I mean, obviously, any experience that you get competing is obviously going to be beneficial. Very cool. Um, Last question, as far as overseas go, when you're watching these other countries like the Serbians and any other country that was there, like what were some of your takeaways from the other countries? Would you say that their karate is better? Or would you say that ours is better, or was it pretty even? Like, what did you learn?
Um, I would say like most other countries, they kind of they have like a different mindset going into it, and I feel like everybody needs to know this. They kind of they're like I've heard this from all the other coaches too, that they kind of try to hit us hard first to kind of like throw us off of our game, and that's something that you kind of got to hit them back harder. That's what our coaches have told us, to hit them back harder, because their coaches tell them to hit us hard to throw us off our game, but we try to keep our composure so we can stay in the fight.
Yeah, so there's a lot of strategy there for sure, and depending on what someone's fighting for, because it could mean a little bit more than just someone that's just there representing their country. Something that I learned when I was in Italy, TJ, and maybe it was something that you also saw too. And I love that you said that they would try to hit us harder, meaning the U.S. athletes. I learned that some of these other countries, like a lot of those athletes are getting sponsored. So it's like if they don't win, then they lose that sponsorship. And I wish that, every US athlete, including yourself, that made it on the team, it was fully funded. Like, I think that would be awesome because you train year round, but these trips are not cheap, whatsoever. So it's pretty cool that you've had an opportunity to, go overseas and get that, life experience that you're talking about. I would like to kind of shift gears now and kind of talk a little bit more or get a chance for you to talk a little bit more about yourself as far as your own personal development. So I know that you're an accomplished athlete. You've been on, multiple, international teams, and you talked about some of the ups and downs that you've had to endure, and choosing kind of like which you like better, right? The kata, the kobudo, and the kumite. But it's nice that you have a good blend of all three. I would like to ask you this: you're a black belt, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So when did you get your black belt, TJ?
I got my black belt about 2 years ago. Actually, 3 years ago. I
Nice.
got it 3 years ago.
Yeah, very cool. And the reason why I asked that is because I always like to get to know like what was your journey leading up to black belt, and then what was it like? What was your black belt test like? Was it difficult? Was it hard? So kind of start from your black belt test, or leading up to it. You get notified or you get word like, hey, TJ, like you're about to, like in 6 months from now, like you're going to be a black belt. What was that preparation like? And then talk about your test, or whatever you can share, of course.
Okay, so yeah, when I heard I could test, they would always tell us that the test was hard. And to be honest, when I first heard that, my mindset, I'm thinking, it couldn't be that hard. I got there for my black belt test. I was dead by the end of my black belt test. It was really long. It was like 8 hours. And Sensei, do you know Sensei Penner?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah, Sensei Penner was there. Like we had multiple like senseis together for our test, and they kind of try to make it hard for us, and they kind of just throw stuff that we've never did before, and it was kind of a struggle for me, but it was, it was all worth it in the end.
Very cool. So, can you talk about a little bit, like what were some of the hardest aspects of the test, or some of the hardest parts that you had to? Because I know some black belt tests, there's a physical test, there's a written test, there's like an oral history test. So, if you can remember and share, what were some of those? Like, what were the different qualifications for you to, get the black belt that you wear now?
Okay, so first, yeah, we had to write a 2-page essay, and then we have to do first. We do our like basics. They ask us a lot of questions, and for our basics, we have to tell them like and in Japanese, and then we do our katas. We do our katas. They ask us information about the katas, like a whole lot of backstory behind it, and then we do those our katas like 5 times, even more each. And then after that, we'll do our self defense. We'll do starting all the way from white belt to like our rank, and we'll do that for kata too. We'll start all the way from white belt, and then we also have to break boards. We have to have 5 board breaks, including a punch. That was board breaks are some people struggle with it, but it wasn't really that hard for me. And then sparring was like at the end, and sparring was like the hard part, because at that time you're like out of stamina, and it was really hard to fight during that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Would you do your black belt test over again?
Um, to be honest, I wouldn't do that one over again. It was a really long testing.
Sure. But it's nice to know that you accomplished it and that you can achieve a black belt. I think that's an amazing, feat, especially someone young like yourself. And I say young because, obviously we see adults earning black belts at different, stages of life. So it's cool that you had that early on, that preparation of what it's like to prepare for something that, is meaningful. Because I think when you earn a black belt, it has to mean something to you because you worked, so hard to get it. Would you ever imagine that from the time you started at age 4, and maybe age 4 is kind of a stretch, but maybe when you were 6 or 7, right, and you're training a lot more, could you see yourself being a black belt then? Or is that just something that kind of developed slowly over the years?
Yeah, I've actually always wanted to be a black belt, and I actually did see myself being a black belt. That's kind of also another thing that I really wanted to strive for.
Yeah, absolutely. As a black belt, what do you plan on giving back?
I plan on giving back.
Before we go any further, do me a quick favor. If you're enjoying this episode, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with somebody who would appreciate this conversation. That one share really does help the show grow. And if you're listening on audio, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating or review. It helps more people find the show, and it lets me know that you're rocking with what we're already building. All right, let's keep it going and let's get back into this amazing conversation.
The knowledge that I've learned, not just from normal karate, like from the tournaments, all those times I've gone out of worlds. I like to spread that information out to, the little kids and everybody at the dojo.
I love it. Yeah, I think you have a really good chip on your shoulder, and I think the future is bright for you. So I'm excited to be able to see, where you go, not only as an athlete, but also off the mat as well, or even outside the dojo. Speaking of that, I would love to get to know what are some of your future goals for karate? I know you're still in high school, but as I say, life goes by pretty quickly. Do you see karate being something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, or is it kind of undecided right now? Do you have aspirations to own a dojo? I know that's kind of a lot of questions kind of in one, but I'm sure these are things that you've thought about.
Yeah, I'm kind of undecided right now because I also have stuff that I also want to do outside of karate.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of undecided right now. I don't really know yet if I really want to own a dojo, but I'm definitely deciding about it.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. And I think whatever you decide, regardless if you go down the track of opening up a dojo or if you want to continue competing, it's cool to see athletes competing well into their, later stages in life. And huge thanks to the AAU for, providing that as well. I know you're still young now, so maybe that's something that you haven't really thought about, but understand that, if you want to compete for as long as you can, realistically, it's cool that you have that option and you're already good, amazing as it is already. So I see success being something that, is going to be continued, in your career for sure. I did want to ask, so I know being at the age that you are, karate was in the Olympics back in 2020 for Tokyo. Is that something that's ever crossed your mind, or is that still a dream for kids nowadays, or have people, I don't want to say people, have athletes, let's say around your age or maybe on the US team, have they kind of dismissed the idea of karate ever being in the Olympics, or is there still hope for that?
Yes, we kind of all want it to be in the Olympics, but you know, it's not. I don't know if we really have a high chance of it being in the Olympics. And I really wish it could, because that's really something that I also, I want karate to expand. We all want karate to expand. And I wish that, it could be in the Olympics. That would really help it expand.
Yeah. And just to be very transparent, for the listeners, karate should be in the Olympics, and it can be. It's just unfortunate there's a lot of things out of our control where, these higher ups, these organizations, I'm just going to say that, can't come to terms with who wants to be the in charge, and it's unfortunate because not having an amazing sport like karate in the Olympics, I feel it hurts athletes like you, it hurts the younger generations. It's hurt my generation because there are so many great athletes that I, competed alongside that I knew, if the karate were in the Olympics right now, or I'm sorry, back then, they would have had a chance, and I think the Tokyo experience was pretty cool. And the only reason, I mean, I don't want to speak in absolutes because I don't know for certain, but it's a safe assumption to say that the reason why karate was in the Olympics for Tokyo was because it was in Japan, and it might never come back. So I think the fact that AAU and even USA Karate, it provides these athletes the opportunities to compete at such a high level, and even just traveling, it's kind of close to that Olympic experience. I know it's not the actual Olympics, but I'm sure you can agree with that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I would like to, as we kind of close out this conversation, or as we kind of wind down, this has been amazing talk, and I've really enjoyed getting to hear your story about, when you started and just kind of your experience. But, like where you are now, like what do you have planned next, for the next year or so? Do you have any big events? And this doesn't just have to be karate related. Do you have any, significant life events coming up that you're looking forward to?
Um, this is like kind of just karate related. Like
Sure.
my main goal is because this year is ISF for the older kids. So next year I'm trying to plan for to go ISF again because like I said, I didn't really do that good. I'm trying to redeem myself so I can, I want to win in ISF
Yeah,
next.
absolutely. Yep. And I have no doubt that you'll get there. Just keep working hard like you're already doing. TJ, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self at age 4, 5, 6, being the man you are now and everything that you've accomplished with the help of your sensei, your family, huge shout out to your mom. Like, what would you tell your younger self that maybe you wish you knew back then? I want to take a second to say thank you to everybody who supports Kumite Lifestyle. Whether you've watched one episode or you've been here since the beginning, I appreciate you. This show has grown because of the people who listen, watch, comment, share, and tell others about it. If you want to support even more, visit kumitelifestyle.com. You can check out the latest episodes, shop the merch, connect with us, and stay updated on everything we have coming next. This is bigger than just a podcast. It's a community. And I'm grateful that you're a part of it. Let's get back into this amazing conversation.
That's a really good question. I would tell myself earlier on that because like earlier on, I really like I kind of trained, but I didn't really, put in all the work that I could. So I would tell myself that the hard work will definitely pay off. So because I can see it now paying off this year. So I would definitely tell myself that.
Very cool. And just within the last year or so, what have you learned most about yourself?
Um, you said over the last year?
Yeah, maybe the last 2 years. And, speaking in the realms of karate or just life itself, because I see a lot of maturity in you. And I know that, karate has helped, with that, of course, along with your dojo and your family. But what have you learned a lot about yourself just in the last, 2 years that maybe that you didn't realize that you could have done, or maybe that you didn't realize that you could accomplish?
Um, it would I think it would be that like I really, really was self-doubting myself with Kumite. Um, and I really learned that, like I said, hard work pays off because like I didn't really like Kumite because I wasn't naturally good at it. I was kind of always naturally good at kata, so I've always liked kata. But you know, Kumite had I've like ever since I've started working it, I've got so much better and improved, and like I'm really proud of myself that all this hard work is paying off. And you know, me seeing me doing a lot better like in Kumite, because last year I didn't really win gold in Kumite much at all, and me winning in Kumite a lot this year has really made myself proud.
Very cool. Yeah, so it's amazing how far we can come, and just whether it's 6 months or a year, has passed and you've already accomplished, you know, a lot and then some. You're, living the dream, as they say. From my own perspective, you're in high school, right? You have a great support system, a good dojo, and you're already, doing the thing. How many people can say that they've traveled multiple times overseas doing something that they love? Not many people can say that. So I think that's amazing that you've, been given these opportunities, TJ. Cool. TJ, where can people find you on social media if they want to get a chance to connect with you, get a chance to know you a little bit more and watch some of your amazing highlight reels?
Okay, you can find me on Instagram. tz2.ro is my Instagram.
Perfect. Yep. So anyone watching, make sure to give TJ a follow. He's a super bright young man with a great future, hard worker, and yeah, just excited to see where he goes. And finally, TJ, I always like to give my guests this opportunity. If you can give anyone a quick, let's say 30-second shout out or last shout out, who would you like to give thanks to right now?
I would like to give thanks first of all to my Sensei Chris Wellman. He's really like helped me along the way, and he's kind of motivated me a lot this year and helped me as I've grown up. He's been there since I'm 4 years old. You know, he's kind of been like a dad to me. So yeah, I would definitely say him. I would also like to thank Sensei Jimmy. He's also like I just started training with him this year, and he's helped me a lot. And Kumite, and it's just he gave me also that motivation, and he's kind of pushed me to be where I'm at right now. And I would also say thank you to Sam because you know he's been there, and we travel the world all the time together, and he's pushes me harder every time we train together. And I would also like to thank my mom. You know, she kind of pushed me to go to tournaments where I haven't wanted to go, and it was definitely good that I've gone to those tournaments. And there's times where I haven't wanted to do a lot of stuff, and where she's made me do stuff, it really paid off, and it was really good that she made me do that.
That's amazing. And I'm glad that you took the time to really give gratitude for, where gratitude exists and thanking all those individuals. And yeah, I want to also thank those individuals as well for helping mold you into the young man that you are. Huge shout out to your mom as well for allowing you to be on this platform and giving you the opportunity. And TJ, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, man, for coming on and trusting me and just as we continue to kind of, do this together, if you will. I mean, like I said earlier on, Kumite Lifestyle, the heart of it is the podcast and giving people of all walks of life an opportunity to share their stories, and your story is no exception. So I'm glad that you took the time to really share a kind of a small glimpse, if you will, because I feel like we could talk forever about your life and the things that you want to accomplish. But I'm glad that you took the time to talk about when you started at age 4. Huge shout out to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right, for kind of getting you going.
Yeah,
And then you talked about that time in class where you poked a young lady in the eye and then she slammed you. So it's
yeah,
it's interesting how these stories unfold, and looking back we can reflect on it. Maybe it's not funny at the time, but as life continues to happen, right, we can kind of look back and just I want to say congratulations on your hard work. And I
thank
know
you.
you don't need me to hear me say that. And yeah, absolutely, man, you're welcome. I think what you're doing is great. And like when I say myself, at Kumite Lifestyle, we're super, super stoked to have you on board and just representing the brand, and anything that we can do to help you, man, just, let us know. And for those watching, again, if you're watching us for the first time on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like us, follow us on all social media platforms. And if you're listening to this and you're interested in becoming an ambassador or getting more information about what that entails, go to www.kumitelifestyle.com. And like TJ, you have an opportunity to apply to becoming an ambassador as we launch into the fall of 2026. TJ, I got to ask, if you could recommend 3 people to be on this podcast that have not already been on, who would you recommend?
Um, I would recommend Dominic, um, David, and Camden. I don't think they've been on this podcast.
I don't think they have. So if you're in touch with them, which it sounds like you are, let them know, have them go to the website, fill out the podcast guest application. And then, yeah, I think we could definitely get them on. So I appreciate you for recommending them. TJ, again, this was an amazing conversation. Thanks again on behalf of Kumite Lifestyle for trusting us and being on today's show. We hope that you had an amazing time, and then we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, I did. I have one last person to thank you. She's
Yeah.
always been there supporting me. I would like to thank my grandma. She's always tried to been there to support me. She's always, let's go TJ. She's always been there. And I would really like to thank my grandma too. And runs fundraisers for me. And I'm really thankful for her.
Very cool. Yeah, I love it. So huge shout out to all your family members or the ones that you've given credit for. So very cool. And again, thank you to you as well. And looking forward to seeing all the things that you accomplished, TJ.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. That's another episode in the books. I want to thank today's guest for being a part of the show and bringing real value to the conversation. And to everybody watching or listening, I appreciate you more than you know. There are a lot of great things you could be doing right now with your time. So the fact that you spent some time here, it means a lot. Make sure you subscribe, follow, share, and visit KumiteLifestyle.com to support the show and check out our amazing merch in the shop. Remember, every story matters, every conversation has value, and we're going to keep building one episode at a time. Thank you for tapping in. I'll catch you on the next one.